Hello everyone, this is Dr. Christensen. We'll be starting in about a minute. I'm just checking some stuff here for technology. If you have any questions, you can write down below on the lower right hand side. Write in some questions. We'll go ahead and start. I'm going to share my screen with you. I have some slides and we'll see if we can get it to work. It's not wanting to work. We'll try. I apologize. So tonight I want to talk about living without limits, and this is really the first part of a series. I won't be able to cover all the information tonight, but I have a system that I like to use to evaluate the past year and to set goals for the next coming year. And we'll get through part of this process tonight, and then I'd like to continue this process if you're interested. So if you're interested, I'll need to know that so that I'm not wasting your time by pursuing this. I am really excited. This is a little bit of a deviation from what I do day in and day out in the medical office, but it's really important, and I think it's really crucial to health as well. So this is a bunch of blah, blah, blah about me. Basically, I've been doing medicine for a long time, and through that process, I've discovered that personal development is really crucial in maintaining and obtaining health. And so that's why we're doing this tonight. And the reason why I'm doing this is right here on the screen. That's my family over there on the right. They're the reason why I get up every morning. And the other reason that I get up every morning is you. I believe in serving you, and I believe that you have this limitless amount of greatness in you, and I want to help you see that, and I want to help you manifest it. And that's why I'm doing this. So that's why I'm spending my evening here with you tonight. As I just stated, I believe that your possibility is why I'm here, and that there's an incredible amount of greatness within all of you. And this is going to be our theme going forward over the next year, is to live without limits. And we'll discuss that tonight. I want to tell you about a story of Egypt. Melinda and I went to Egypt a few years ago. And one of the things that really stood out to me was when we looked at in the tombs, on the walls of the tombs, there was this scene that was depicted, and it's called the judgment scene. And if you look at this judgment scene as depicted on this papyrus, you have somebody that's being presented to God after their death. And at this judgment scene, the person is being judged to see if they can move on in the next life. And if you see here, you have the depiction of a scale. And on the scale there on the left is the person's heart. And on the right is the feather of Mot. And the feather of Mot represents everything that is good, righteous, everything that is that represents charity and goodwill is represented in the feather of Mot. And the way this goes is if your heart weighs more than the feather, then you do not get to move on in the next life. And this really struck me significantly because when we look at our heart being weighed against the feather of Mot, it really rings true to what I think our society is plagued with. We all know that heart disease is a leading killer in our society. It's the leading killer both in men and women. But I believe that we're also killing ourselves with a different kind of heart disease. Our hearts are heavy and weighed down. There's actually a condition called broken heart syndrome where someone can have basically a heart attack caused by stress and grief. And as you look at 2016 and how your year has gone and how it might have gone, I think we can realize that maybe our hearts are heavy and that our heavy hearts are keeping us from achieving what we really can achieve. So the question is what is holding you back and what are your limits? And what, some of those limits for some of us, our health. Our health isn't the best, and so it keeps us from doing what we're capable. Some of us blame our genes, and a lot of us will blame our environment, the government. Trump got elected, and so now my ability to excel is limited. We often blame other people. And time is also something that we blame. I'm too old to do that, or I'm too young, or I don't have enough time. And really, if we look at all of these things that are limiting us, they're really self-imposed, meaning I believe that we have control over most of these limiting factors. And that's really key as we move forward. The blame game kind of goes like this, and I see it a lot in the clinic with a lot of different things. But we start blaming other people, our environment, our genes, our health on our current circumstances. And that really becomes part of our story and who we are. And that story of our limitations that we've put blame on then become barriers that really keep us from growing. And it leads to dysfunction and then the inability to grow and progress. And so as we move forward, we want to look at removing these barriers. So I think it's super important that we realize what's going on in our lives, that we really need to stop playing the blame game and take responsibility for who we are and where we are at in our lives. And that can be with our health, our wealth, our relationships, and all the other aspects in our lives. And so I believe that as we come to this realization that we have responsibility for where we're at, that it really becomes the beginning of our future possibility. I often use this cartoon to explain the problems that we have in our healthcare, that we're often mopping up the floor when we should be fixing the leaky faucet. And I think we also need to examine our own lives and really look at where our faucet might be leaking so that we're not always trying to mop up the floor. So I want you to think about your heavy heart and what are some of those barriers that keep you from progressing. If you think about your past year and some of the hopes and dreams and goals that you had for the past year, I want you to think about what kept you from moving forward. And as part of your homework, I want you to write these down. Come up with at least 3 to 5 barriers that you see that kept you from progressing. And then for each of those barriers, I would like for you to list how you can take ownership of that barrier. And an example is listed below. If I say that I'm too old to change, I can take ownership and realize that there are many people that have achieved greatness in old age, and that really my age does not determine what I can and cannot do. And as I realize that age really isn't the barrier, but my belief about my age is the barrier. And as we realize that, I want you guys to write down how those new beliefs can really change who you can become. That really my age has nothing to do with how I can excel and achieve my goals. This is our logo on the left. Many of you have seen this. And you can see the 6 circles on the right and how they're really not arranged in any order. And if you look closely at our logo, you can see that it's 6 circles that are arranged and organized in a specific way that they form a beautiful flower as they overlap. And this is called the flower of life. And so our logo represents the creation. And I believe that we all can create our own life with no limits. But to do this, we really need clarity on who we are and who we want to become. And then we need a structure in how we can go about achieving and setting those goals. And that's really what this is all about tonight, is to help give you a little bit of structure to evaluate, and then moving forward will give you more structure to set good achievable goals and help keep you on track. I want to talk about the example of babies. I've had a grandbaby born this past year, and I've got another one on the way. And as I think about the heart and how it represents who we are and who we can become, I think about the fetus. And the fetus, when it's in the womb, it has limitations on how big it can get and how much it can achieve. But as that baby, that fetus matures and then goes through the birthing process and then becomes a newborn, all of a sudden that fetus has open to it new possibility and really endless possibilities of what can be achieved. And really, I think that we are all in the state of this fetus where we have self-imposed limitations on ourselves. And I think as we go through a process of what I call a change of heart, we can open up new possibilities, and we can literally give birth to a new and great life. And so that's the process that I'd like to help you go through. And the fetal heart has a certain blood flow through it that allows the baby to receive blood from mother and then distribute that blood to the body in a very efficient way. And when it does this through, there's actually a hole in the heart that the blood flows through called the foramen ovale. And then the blood also flows through something called the ductus arteriosus, which bypasses blood flow to the lungs, because the fetal baby or the fetus does not need the oxygen or the function of the lungs. And so the blood flow, for the most part, bypasses the lungs. But when that baby is born, that fetal heart has to change. The blood flow has to then go to the lungs and be oxygenated, and then come back to the heart where it can be distributed to the body. So in order for that to happen, that foramen ovale has to be shut and the ductus arteriosus has to be closed. And if those things do not happen, the baby cannot survive, and the baby will not have a new life full of new possibility. And so in a very similar way, as we look to the future and our hopes and our dreams and our aspirations, we need to also experience a change of heart so that we can effectively give birth to a new life that's full of possibility. And this is, again, a representation of this process. I also like to look at it from this aspect. If you look at the target on the right, most of us live right there in the middle in the blue comfort zone. And most of us have set up barriers that kind of keep us in that blue comfort zone. But in order for us to achieve goals and to achieve different results, we need to change our behavior. And in order to change our behavior, we need to change our beliefs about our barriers. And this is where the change of heart really comes into play. And so as we move forward, we're going to be talking about this diagram as we remove those barriers and move into our growth zone. Over time, that growth zone will actually become our new comfort zone. And then we can, again, remove new barriers and expand our growth and continue to live without limits and without those barriers. So how would it be to live without the barriers of finances, health, your environment, other people? And I really believe this is what we can do. This represents the process that I call a change of heart. And just like the fetus that needs to be born and then experience a change of heart, this is the process that we go through. I believe that we first conceive of who we can become. This is the dreaming phase. When we look ahead and we think of the things that we would like to have or do or become. And then as we move forward, we need to grow and develop into those ideas that we have conceived. And then we really need to commit. When the baby is born, there is no turning back. And we all need to reach that point in our goals and in our lives where we are willing to commit and 100% to the process. And then just like the baby, as we commit, then we need to actually take a breath of that new life so that we can then experience the change of heart that has to take place. And once that change of heart takes place and we're dedicated to our goals, then as we follow the model of the heart, we can achieve higher function in all aspects of our life. I'd like to briefly talk about one aspect of the heart called coherence. And if you look at this, this is a heart rhythm of a heart rate variability pattern of an individual. Up top is represented by frustration and down below appreciation. And as what we've learned is that when we're in this state of appreciation, that we get into a state that's called coherence. And when we're in a state of coherence, our ability to function goes way up. Not only does our body function better, but we're also able to make better decisions. We're better able to communicate better. And there's a simple exercise that we can do called quick coherence. And this is designed by the HeartMath Institute. And I'd like to just walk you through that exercise, because I think when you sit down to evaluate your past year and look forward to your next year, I think if you're in a state of coherence, it is much more effective. And so this quick coherence consists of these 3 steps. The first is that you just put your attention on your heart and the area around your heart. And if you would like, you can put your hand over your heart if that helps. And you can close your eyes if you want and just put your attention on the area around your heart. As you do that, I then want you to slow your breathing down and breathe in for the count of 6. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and breathe out for the count of 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you slow your breathing down, make sure that your breath is moving deep into your belly or pelvis. And imagine that you're doing what we call heart-focused breathing, where the breath is moving in through your heart and then out through your heart. And as you have this heart-focused and this heart-focused breathing, we then want you to recreate a feeling of appreciation, gratitude, or love. And to do that, for example, I often think of my grandbabies and how sweet they are when they're newborns. And I imagine myself with that newborn cuddled in my arms. And this helps me to recreate a feeling of gratitude and love. So whatever does that for you, and we will cover, more details of this process in the future. But going through this process, even for a couple minutes before you sit down to go through these exercises, is super important. Conception in this process of a change of heart, we want that to come from a place of love, just like we want our babies to be conceived from a place of love. We want your new life to also be conceived from that place of gratitude, appreciation, charity, and love. So part of your homework, I want you to list all the things that you're grateful for. And think about your past year and the things that you're grateful for that have gone on in the past year, and come up with at least 10 things that you're grateful for. The next part of this conception step in the change of heart is to list all the roles that you have in your life, or the areas that are important to your life. Like some of my roles are father, husband, brother, grandfather, son, sibling, friend, physician, teacher, speaker. Some of the areas in my life are my health, my wealth or finance, my spiritual life, my social life, my hobbies, and make sure that you include fun in there somewhere. But I want you to list all of those roles that you have in your life and all the areas in your life. And then for each area, I want you to think about the last year and just list things that you've thought about achieving in those areas. For example, in health, it may be a certain weight. In your spiritual, it may be feeling a stronger connection with a greater power or with God. in your career or vocation. It may be gaining a new skill. And then as you look at all of those areas in your life, I want you to think about this place of love and gratitude, and think about how you would like to move forward in each of those areas. You don't have to be super specific. I'd like you to be specific about how things have gone in the last year in each of those areas. And I often will rank myself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of these areas. And so I think that would be a good thing for you to do as well. And then as you look at those rankings and think about why that ranking is not higher, and try to connect how the blame game or those self-inflicted barriers may have played a role in that number maybe not being as high as you would like it to be. As kind of a review, I want you to realize that really you have no limits, and we want to live with no limits. Just like this is my daughter who's about to get married when she was a baby, and she's just full of life and potential. And this is the way I want you to see yourself, and realize that your heavy heart has kept you from achieving some of the things that you had hoped for. And that we can change that. We can change our hearts so they're no longer heavy. And as we move forward, we're going to take you through a process that will hopefully give you clarity, and then give you structure to build your goals and your life on. And then we can overcome the blame game. Again, this is the process that we're going to be taking you through. And if you're interested, please let me know, and we will proceed with some further webinars that will cover this whole process. This is what I'm, inviting you to do, is to live with more heart, more health, and with more joy, and really to live with no limits. I really want to express gratitude for you taking time to be here. I want to serve you, and really want to help you live with no limits and reach your greatness. Let me know if you have any questions, concerns, and again, I appreciate you being here and look forward to spending more time with you. Have a good evening. Talk to you soon.